Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by 4-Wheel Parts. Today we have Jay Tillis on here. He is also known as Lightning. He is the co-host of the Truck Show podcast, and he's also the brand manager at Banks Power. So he gives us just a ton of different insights around content creation. He spent years in radio, and obviously as the brand manager at Banks Power, he deals with sponsorship stuff all the time. So we get into all sorts of different facets of sponsorship in the show, which is awesome. Before we get into the interview with Jay, though, I have a few things to talk to you about. First is 4-Wheel Parts. They are running their New Year, New Rig deals right now, and with that comes the financing options. As you all know, once you start getting into lift kits and winches and wheels and tires and all that fun stuff, it can add up quickly, and it's nice to have that financing option available. You can always head over to 4wheelparts.com and just kind of browse around. I recommend signing up for their email list too. If you do that and then you add stuff to your cart, sometimes you'll get a little 5% off coupon right away. That's on top of the other deals that they normally have. So really good stuff. And it's pretty funny. I spend a decent amount of time looking at stuff on 4-Wheel Parts, and I get retargeted like everywhere else. So it was funny. I was watching YouTube with my son the other day. I don't know what we were watching, some show, and the ad pops up as 4-Wheel Parts. I'm like, yeah, I know. You don't need to target me because I'm already interested. But it's it's pretty funny. It shows up on my pretty much every one of my platforms that I look at. So either way, a couple of things I want to cover with you is feedback. I love getting feedback about the show, and one of the best ways to do that is for you to head to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review, or just a rating. It's up to you. Some people also still call iTunes instead of Apple Podcasts, like me being one of those people. So head over to iTunes and leave that rating review too. You can always shoot me an email, josh@sponsoredriderclubpodcast.com as well. A couple of things here. It is very important for you to subscribe to the show too. It will automatically download episodes to your phone, which is easier than going on the website or on YouTube and listening to them. But the choice is yours. And the last things I want to talk to you about here before we get into the show is all the amazing sponsors that make this show possible. First off here, AMSOIL. They provide amazing lubrication products, and they're a company that runs on freedom. You can find out more at amsoil.com/rider. SolderWeld. They produce game-changing metal bonding technology, and they're ready to rescue your race. TopThePodium.com. They're experts in motorsport sponsorship, website creation, and resume building. And then Crash Act Industries. They provide human protection and extreme racing products. I also want to shout out our other partners, MBRP, HMK USA, Sudboy Traction, and High Octane Coffee. And to close out this intro here, we have a tidbit of sponsorship advice from Joe Sylvester of High Octane Coffee. We call this the High Octane Coffee Marketing Tune-Up. And right after that, we will get into the show with Jay.
What's up, everybody? Joe Sylvester here with your High Octane Coffee Marketing Tune-Up of the Day. Today I want to talk about a little bit of homework. Doing your homework on a company before you even think about approaching them for a sponsorship. That's a big, big thing. You know, you need to understand the company and a little bit about what they're all about and what their marketing strategies and tactics are before you even approach them. Make sure that they align with what you're doing and make sure that you're going to be able to bring something to the table for them. You know, check up on their social media. Look at maybe who else they're sponsoring. See how you fit into the picture. And absolutely use their product. Even if you just try it for the first time, make sure it's something that you believe in, something that you feel confident in endorsing. So definitely, before approaching a company, do your homework, research that company, and learn as much as you possibly can about them so you can have an intelligent conversation with them when you finally do reach that marketing executive to talk to them about sponsoring your race program.
You've reached Gale Banks Engineering, home of Banks Power and Banks Technologies. Our offices are currently closed. If you'd like to leave a message and you know your party's 4-digit extension, you may enter it at any time.
Please spell the name of the person. First name first. Press 7. Press 1 for
Jay Tillis.
Please hold while I transfer your call.
This is Jay.
Well, how are things, man?
Fantastic. Let's talk the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, longest title of a podcast ever.
I'll tell you what, that title for the past 3 years has just exhausted me. It's just been a lot of...
I don't doubt it.
Just been a lot of words to say. Like, what was I thinking? Even worse is after doing the show for a while, people are like, oh, you really should say partner, like not sponsor. I'm like, yeah, that's a really good point. I should. My show.
Well, I don't know, because it's different. A partnership and a sponsorship can be different.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll dig into this a little bit later. A sponsorship is I'm going to pay you to talk about my products, and a partnership is a little deeper and it goes beyond that.
Yeah.
And it's a two-way street.
Exactly. See, that's what I was trying to get at. No, I honestly, I thought about that at one point. I was like, but I don't know if people would know what the show's about, like the partnership podcast. Like, no one's gonna know what that is.
No. The answer is no. They wouldn't have a clue what that means. They would think that it was a relationship podcast.
Definitely.
Which couldn't be further from. Well, I mean, I guess it is a relationship between the sponsor and the sponsoree. But
yeah, I think it might get. I think that the partnership podcast might just have a little bit different spin on it. I don't know if I could do that show. I don't think I could pull that off.
No, we could call Dr. Drew or something, and we can get him involved in it. We're a sex therapist, but I don't think that's not your show.
Yeah, that's not my show. But yeah, we are here at the Sponsored Rider Club podcast right now, which is powered by 4 Wheel Parts. And who are we talking to? I mean, I want to call you Jay, but I also want to call you Mr.
Right.
Lightning.
You can call me Jay. So it's I mean, it depends who you are. Some people call me Jay, and some call me Lightning. You know me most recently from the Truck Show podcast, which they call me Lightning. And the reason I'm Lightning on that podcast is because of where I used to work, which is K-Rock, KROQ FM in Los Angeles. I was at the big alternative rock station in LA for just shy of 26 years. And my on-air name was Lightning, which I was given, as all names are at most radio stations. They're given to you. You don't really come up with them. Because when I started, when I was 20 years old, they thought I was particularly slow. So the antithesis was Lightning. It came from your parents may have watched a show called Amos and Andy back in the 50s and 60s.
Okay.
A black and white show. And there was a guy that swept the hallways, and they called him Lightning because he just barely moved. He just barely had a pulse as he was going down the hallway with his mop. And so somehow one of the guys came up with that reference who I worked for, and just it stuck and called me Lightning, and I've had it for 30 some odd years. But yeah, whatever you want, Lightning, Jay, like I said, if you're a listener to the podcast or to the radio station, you call me Lightning. If you're calling me from the Sponsored Rider podcast, then maybe it's just Jay. Whatever.
Did they call you like Sir Lightning or like, Mr. Lightning?
No, I'm not a part of any royal family.
That you know of. I mean, maybe there's some. I don't know.
It's possible, but yeah, no, I'm not claiming any royalty for sure.
So yeah, I mean, I got to know you through the Truck Show podcast. I made a little appearance on that episode. I think it was 89. What are you on now? 100 and something?
We're at 105, but not a little appearance. You were on for like almost a half an hour, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal. I was probably the feature of that. It's really, guys listening, it's not that big of a deal, but you should go listen to it. It was good.
You should listen to it. Absolutely.
It was fun. That was I had a different hat on. That was my Proving Grounds hat for that show, and now I have my podcast hat on. And
forgive me, how many of your listeners know what you do during the day? Because right now you're moonlighting.
Yeah, I have millions of listeners. I would say maybe 50 of them know. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I do not have millions of listeners. I don't know. That is a great question. A small percentage.
How much do you talk about the proving grounds?
Like 0.5% of my time.
Because your job is so rad. Your day job is what many of us, we envy you, because you're hanging around with skunk works vehicles, stuff people won't see for half a decade.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing from military vehicles to consumer test rigs and you get to you're at the at a proving grounds that is used by all the major manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's just when you were describing your day gig, we both Holman, my co-host, and I were salivating.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I gotta be honest. I'm not gonna lie. And normally I lie, but in this case I'm not going to, because that's why I said I gotta be honest this time. So, no, it's a good time. I talk about it sometimes, but not that much. Maybe I should talk about it more.
I think so. I think that when you have a vehicle that comes through that's interesting, maybe you can't say what the vehicle is, but say, hey, look, I just saw an electric truck come through, and I can't say what manufacturer, but it does this, and I saw it do this, and I saw it do that. I don't know. It makes you sound more plugged in, I think.
Yeah.
You got a cool gig. I mean, there are a lot of carpenters out there. There are a lot of plumbers out there. A lot of guys listening who, do all sorts of things. But your job is fairly unique.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. There's not many proving grounds out there. Definitely not in the United States. They are in high demand. Oh my goodness, they're in high demand.
I'm sure. You know what's in high demand? That proving grounds are in high demand, and CARB approved emissions laboratories are in high demand right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Probably many of your listeners may or may not know, but there's been a lot of hustle and bustle over panties in a bunch over emissions, diesel emissions specifically. You guys have all seen Instagrams, IG posts where guys are rolling coal, they're blowing smoke. From back in the day, Diesel Brothers doing stuff. That's how they got famous too. We've all seen guys rolling coal.
Mm-hmm.
And the EPA has always declared that illegal. You can't remove your emissions equipment from your any car, for that matter, car, truck, motorcycle, side by side, anything that came with emissions equipment. You're not supposed to remove it, but everyone just ignored it. And now the EPA has finally had enough, and they said enough is enough, and they've started busting guys who give consumers the ability to remove their emissions. Mm-hmm. So whether that's catalytic converters or diesel particulate filters or all that stuff. And so what that's forced is some of the more reputable firms that make diesel tuning products. If they want to stay in the diesel tuning industry, they said, wow, we can't make illegal tuners anymore, stuff that allows you to blow black smoke. We've got to go get our stuff approved by the California Air Resource Board. So it's good. So it's legal in all 50 states. Well, there's really only a very small handful of approved laboratories that can measure soot output and NOx output. And so all of a sudden, inside of 9 months, every laboratory is totally slammed. And I know I took this. You didn't expect to talk about emissions on your
No, you're fine. Didn't you do a show recently called like the Emissions Episode or
Emissions Episode? Yeah. It's been a huge thing in the tuning world. Like it's just crazy, because guys it's like the Wild West. It has been the Wild West. You just do whatever you want to your car or truck, and as long as you can find someone to help you pass your smog check, you can do whatever. And a lot of states don't have any emissions. They don't have any emissions regulation. Mm-hmm. You just, if you're out in the heartland, you're in Texas, places like that, they may have no emissions. So you just roll coal, you do whatever you want. But the EPA is starting to clamp down, and it's costing guys millions of dollars to come clean. But I don't know. It sparked you saying that the testing facility that you work at, is under super high demand, and the places that we frequent, emissions laboratories, are in super high demand these days.
Oh, yeah. Well, and for people who are listening who don't know, I work at a place called Eaton, and they make a ton of different products, but I mean, we're in the diesel space mostly for like Class 8, semi trucks. We make a lot of, efficiency focused things. So EPA, we're very comfortable with EPA, but we do like variable valve actuation stuff. We do hydraulic lash adjusters. We do exhaust gas recirculation.
But Josh, let's be honest. What
stuff.
you're probably most known for, what Eaton is most popular for, is our blowers, the superchargers.
Yeah.
A lot of guys who have supercharged vehicles, whether they're going to be Mercedes, like an AMG or whatever, a lot of these are Eaton superchargers. And that would be that'd be a consumer product.
If you see a Roush or a Magnuson or a Harrop, those are Eaton superchargers. The internals are all Eaton stuff, Eaton rotating groups. The performance world is big, but then over in Japan right now, if you get a new Mazda 2-liter Skyactiv, that has a supercharger on it, and it is, I can't remember what miles per gallon they're claiming, but it's like 50 or 60 miles per gallon out of a gas engine. It's just ridiculous.
Thanks to the supercharger.
Yeah, and they jam superchargers on crazy stuff. Yeah, it's cool. But hey, Speaking of cool things, tell us about.
We're supposed to talk about sponsorships, right?
Well, I want to know. I still want to know a little bit more about you.
Okay.
The brand manager role at banks. So tell us about that. You obviously are getting familiar with the EPA folks there, but what's your role there?
Brand manager is kind of an overarching title that I oversee marketing, advertising, new product development. I'm involved in sales. I'm involved in all aspects of the business, minus warehousing and things like that. I'm not in accounting or that type of. But
luckily, goodness.
I love accountants. I'm over there. I mean, my influence is also all over our cardboard boxes and the design and sizing and things like that. And I wear a lot of different hats, and I think that was why, by design, when I worked for Gale Banks, Banks Power. Gale has been in the aftermarket performance industry since 1958. And he just left my office, and it's nighttime. He works 6 days a week. He's going on 78 years old, and he's a genius. Like he's awesome. Legitimately a genius. And he is the guy responsible for the diesel performance industry. He was the first one to offer a diesel kit for a consumer pickup truck.
That's awesome.
Back in 1988, you could go to a GMC dealer and buy a 6.2 liter gas GM engine, and at the dealership you could put into your car payment a Banks turbo kit. And so that's kind of he's got records. He's got like 40 some odd patents that the OEs use, things like that. But I was working at the radio station, and I built a SEMA truck. And this is going to get us into sponsorships at some point.
Perfect.
But I had built various vehicles to show at SEMA, and for your fans who don't know, it's the Specialty Equipment Market Association. And way back in the day, it was the Speed Equipment Market Association, but today it's the Specialty Equipment Market Association. And that, back in the 50s, was a group just of dudes in LA and around the country that got together at Dodger Stadium under the bleachers.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that's what happened on the first and second ones. And they got together and they set up their little card tables and their little, that's way before they had easy ups. And they set up and they sold their wares. And one guy would have an intake plenum. Another guy would have a carburetor. Another guy would have wheels and whatever. And it was a group of 50 some odd companies. And flash forward today, every November, it's the largest. It's an organization based in, it's worldwide. and anyone can be a member, whether you're in media or you own a retail shop or you own a company that makes carburetors. You can, or fuel injection, whatever, you can be a member of this organization, and they give you all kinds of tools to help you grow your business, buy parts, sell parts, just every facet of your business if you're in the aftermarket.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing in November, they have their big show, and it's as far as square footage is concerned, it's the largest automotive show in the U.S. And it is dealer. It's you've got to be in the industry to get in. They police it pretty well, and it's just this mecca of cars and trucks. And it's the coolest cars and trucks because if I make wheels or tires or steering wheels or exhaust systems, how do I best show that part, right? I'm going to call up the guy with the coolest car, truck, hot rod, motorcycle, and I'm going to get my parts on his vehicle, then put his vehicle in my booth. So consequently, you have the most amazing vehicles on the planet at one place at one time, all in Las Vegas, whether it's exotics, lifted trucks, lower trucks, et cetera, et cetera. So I went to the radio station in, I don't know, this is like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that, 6 years. And I said, hey, I'm going to go buy a dually. I'm going to go buy a Chevy dually to pull my trailer. And that's actually, no, that's not how it happened. Let me think here. I bought the dually because I wanted to pull the trailer. And then when I got it, I got the bug to go build it and lift it and do some crazy stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, what's the best way for me to get this stuff for free? I mean, this is what your show talks about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, let's find what's most attractive to a lot of the companies that are based in Southern California. Because a lot of the, from Toyo tires to bulletproof suspension, these guys are all based in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, what if I built a rig with the radio station? And the reason it made sense to me is I was super bored. Every radio station around the country has Chevy Express vans, or now they have a Nissan van or whatever. It's a van and they wrap it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every motocross company's got a van. Like every company has a van. But I thought, what if I pulled up to Supercross at Anaheim Stadium with a huge lifted dually with a crazy wrap and a crazy roof rack and a motorcycle in the back, and it's just outrageous. How cool would that be for the radio station? It's just not a boring van. And I went to the program director and I said, hey, I'd like to build this truck. What do you think? And his first thing is he says, what's it going to cost us? I said, nothing. He says, what do you mean nothing? I said, I'm going to go get everything sponsored. And he goes, if you can do it, go for it.
Yeah.
So my first call was to the CBS radio legal staff. And I said, I want to build this thing. And they said, well, we've never done this before. We've never allowed a non-station owned vehicle to be wrapped with KROQ. So they said, you've worked here for 25 years. We trust you. But normally we wouldn't do this. I said, well, I appreciate that. What do I need to do?
And you were like, I've finally gained your trust. Now it's time to execute my plan.
Well, we have, I mean, we were sued a million times and, and all kinds of crazy radio stuff, doing stunts we shouldn't have done, all those things back in the 90s. And I had always done right by the attorneys. So they did feel comfortable with it. However, she said, you know what, you need to pick up $2 million of liability, commercial liability. So I thought, oh, crap. And I went and I called. I was the voice of AIS, the auto insurance specialist, and I called them and said, I need to pick up commercial insurance. Can you sponsor me? And they said, nope, it's illegal. We cannot give you free insurance. I said, there's some law against giving anyone free insurance. I don't know why. So I said, okay, well, what if I voiced your commercials and you paid me and then I just gave you the money right back and that was the insurance? I said, sure, we'll do it. We love you. Let's do that.
There you go.
So it was a weird trade of hands. So I ended up getting this commercial insurance, and then I set out on this mission to build this lifted truck. And I first created a rendering of what I thought it should look like.
Yep.
And I went through a few different renderings. I went to this radio station. I said, "What do you think of this?" I said, "Oh my God, this is amazing. You can build this?" I said, "I'm going to build it." I said, "Love it. Go for it. Wish you luck." But they didn't want to they didn't want to put 1 ounce of energy into it.
Yeah.
But I had my list of all of my favorite companies, and I just started making phone calls. And I would make a phone call, and other ones I'd make emails, and I would send. I had a whole kit. I had the summation of kind of an executive summary of what this project entailed, where the vehicle would go, how many eyeballs would see it, how long it would be out in the field. How many? It wasn't just going to be, I'm going to do this for 6 months and then sell it. I was going to have it going for a minimum of 2 years. I gave everyone that I submitted this to, I answered in advance all the questions that I would have asked had someone been pitching this to me.
Right.
And I think it knocked down the doors really, really fast, because I would send it over to them and I would get a response. And some companies are understaffed and they can't get to these things. And so I didn't hear from a couple of guys, but I would say by and large, most of them I heard back from them quickly, and they were almost all in. Some had some questions, and I'd get on the phone and ease their fears or say, I'm going to do this and this and this, and we'd work it out, and they would supply the products. And what was neat in my particular case, and I would say that a lot of your listeners don't have this luxury because they're in the heartland or the back east or wherever they are, and they're not by these companies. But I was fortunate in that, being in Southern California and being kind of the automotive kind of mecca, as I like to call it here, I was able to physically drive the truck or have it flatbedded to AMP Research down in Irvine, and they would physically bolt on my automated steps. Or I would drive it out to Bulletproof, which is in Mentone, out by Redlands, which is in the foothills, an hour southeast of LA, or east of LA, and they would bolt on the lift. So I was fortunate that the manufacturers of the parts were putting on the parts, as opposed to calling companies and then having them send all the parts to a shop. I was actually chaperoning the truck around and getting the stuff done. Most of the time, guys who do what I do, who are getting their vehicle sponsored, will choose Joe's diesel shop or whatever performance shop, and then they'll say, "Hey, Bulletproof Suspension, can you just send it to this address to my shop in Utah or my shop in Iowa or whatever?" So mine was a little unique, and I was getting FaceTime with the marketing guys and with the installers. So after I built this truck and showed it at SEMA for 2 years, I realized that there was an interesting thing going on at Banks Power, and so Gail had contributed to my truck. Gail had contributed about $60,000 worth of parts. A lot of stuff, a lot of engine mods to the truck, engine, suspension, all kinds of stuff, tuning and whatnot. And he and I, over that time, started going to lunch and hanging out and whatnot. And he was kind of a radio geek. I didn't know that when I met him, but a mutual radio friend had actually introduced us, which is weird. But Gail, so we hit it off talking about radio and stuff, and we got more and more. We started to talk about his company and learn. And he had some issues with trying to get his message across on social media and reaching a younger audience and stuff. That's what I was doing at the radio station. I was talking to 26-year-olds. That was our demo. Was 18 to 34-year-old men. That was my demo for the morning show. And so I knew that demo. And at some point, I just said, you know what? Radio, as much as I love terrestrial radio, podcast is taking over, and satellite is taking over, and streaming, Spotify, Pandora, all those. They're chipping away at radio, and I didn't really see a bright future in radio. Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to die, but it is. iHeart, if you just read, Friday laid off quite a few people. CBS and Entercom. Well, CBS is now Entercom. Entercom has blown out a ton of people, and all the big players are blown out people because radio. The number of listeners isn't necessarily going down, but the amount of the dollars that radio is able to command for commercial is going down.
Yep.
So, for example, let's say that in 2000 we were getting about $1,500 per 60-second commercial, and we were running 13 commercials an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Now, flash forward 2020, you're getting probably $200 for a commercial.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it has dropped so significantly that with those numbers decreasing, you can't really command the same staff because, the staff is the most expensive part to any business. And anyway, I ended up here. I basically said, I want to come work for you. I love what you're doing. I think you need me. And I just was in love with the way that he ran his business. So, and things that he created and the patents that he had and his vision of the future. So I left radio after 26 years and ended up here at Banks Power in Azusa, California. And we have a bunch of different facets to this company. We have the performance side where we make intakes and exhausts and tuners for full-size trucks, GM, Ram, Ford. We make some Toyota products, not as many. We have a couple things for Nissan, not as many. We've got a huge military operation. So the Humvee, everyone knows what a Humvee is, a Hummer, right? The H1, the original one, they were deployed all over the world. Well, that's no longer. They've been that chapter is closed, and the new vehicle that has replaced the Humvee is called a JLTV, a Joint Light Tactical Vehicle, and it's a trophy truck. It's a trophy truck on steroids. It's an armored trophy truck. It's got like 20 inches of wheel travel. It'll do 80 miles an hour through the whoops. It's crazy. It's amazing. Like they've taken them through Baja. They've done all the races with them before they released them to the military. And, they've got guns on top. They've got satellite versions. They outfit every different way, and they send it to Navy, Air Force, Marines, Army, etc. I bring this up because we are the sole supplier of the engines for all JLTVs.
Oh, okay.
It's based on a Duramax 6.6 liter. The Duramax that's in your pickup truck, if you have a Silverado or a Denali, we put some Banks parts on the line as they're going down the line at Duramax, and what parts can't be put on the line. Those engines come here, and we put the rest of the parts on here. We process probably 150 engines a week, something like that, and then they get dynoed and tested and signed off, and they go to Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and they get dropped into the JLTVs. So we have a couple different businesses that we run here. But my part, I don't deal with the military side. I'm all about the performance side. So I end up getting all the calls when guys want free parts. Guys want, hey, dude, I've got a 2006 Duramax. I'm looking at the Banks 5-inch monster exhaust. Do you guys sponsor anyone? I get those calls all day, every day.
And that is one of the reasons why you're on the show. I am going to break into the show real quick, take a minute to thank the sponsors for this podcast. Let's talk about your truck for a minute. You can count on it to haul your vehicle and your gear to the track or to the trailhead, but I bet you never think about the motor oil. Here's why you should. Your oil is the only thing preventing your engine from wearing out and breaking down. To keep your truck running strong, look for an oil with added wear protection. Like, for example, AMSOIL Signature Series Synthetic Motor Oil. It delivers 75% more engine protection against horsepower loss and wear than is required by the leading industry standard. It provides the next level protection today's demanding engines need to keep running for years and to keep effortlessly towing your ride to the track. Go to AMSOIL.com/rider to find out more. Make the switch to AMSOIL synthetic motor oil today to keep your vehicle running great.
Hey guys, George Hamill here to talk about SolderWeld's new off-road repair kit. If you're a racer of any type or an off-road enthusiast like myself, you're going to want to take a close look at this product that bonds metal on the spot. SolderWeld has combined some of their most elite products into one small kit that fits perfectly under your seat or strapped to a roll cage and allows you to make some insane fixes anywhere you go. How many of us have been in a race or out on the trail and got a rock chip in a radiator or brake line? We have seen a top-tier desert race team at the 2019 Mint 400 taken out by a simple rock to the radiator. If they had an off-road repair kit on board, they could have been back up and running in just minutes. The kit includes everything you need to work on dirty aluminum, stainless steel, copper, and many other metals. SolderWeld's cutting-edge technology allows you to make these fixes with extremely low heat and incredibly high tensile strength, leaving you a lasting fix every time. Don't be that guy broke down on the side of the trail. Get your off-road repair kit today, and your friends will thank you.
Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? Is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out CrashAddict.com and at least just see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please make safety your overriding priority. Two questions I get continuously about this show and about sponsorship is, do I need my own website and do I need a resume? The answer is, in my opinion, yes to both, and that's why we partner with TopThePodium.com. Now, if you want to see an example of what a professional website and what a professional resume looks like, you gotta check out TopThePodium.com. They did my website. The Sponsored Rider Club Podcast website is SponsoredRiderClubPodcast.com. That was created by Jeff Vanistal of TopThePodium.com. I think it's awesome. I get a lot of good feedback about it. And there's a number of other websites out there that Jeff has produced that are just phenomenal. So I think it's important in this world of social media where you have control of your content. That's what a website does. It gives you full control. We don't know what Facebook's going to do sometimes. We don't know what Instagram's going to do. We don't know what Twitter's going to do. So if we don't have that central location to direct people and house our content, there is some risk that we incur. So I strongly recommend getting a website, talking to TopThePodium.com. And then the resume, again, is massive. And if you want to stand out, get it done professionally. And honestly, it is one of the best ways to step up your game and present yourself in the best way possible.
There are human beings on the other side of the applications that you submit, on the direct messages you send over, on the calls you make, on the emails you send. There's somebody that's looking at this thing and they're like, all right, at a minimum it's taken some of their time, right? At a minimum it's taken some of their time. And what you put in front of them, like, it has an impact, whether it's good or bad. I always joke around with about this. I say it to everybody, sponsor me, bro. Because there's just a lot of that out there, and that's how people lead. Like, hey, I got this, 1981 Escort with a sticker on it. Like, why don't you give me $20,000 and I'm gonna do an autocross race with it. Like,
So this stuff happens all the time. We had two just today. Both were aspiring YouTubers. Mm-hmm. And, hey, I've got a YouTube channel. I'm just starting out. And they're honest. I'm just starting out. I'm growing my audience. Here's the link. One guy had a Ram truck. It was a mid 2000s Ram truck, a diesel. Another guy had it was a Duramax. And I looked at both their channels, and each one had fewer than 1,000 subscribers. Mm-hmm. Now, so I'm honored that they call me. I really am. I'm not blowing smoke. I would tell them to their face. I'm honored that they thought of me because I'm hoping, I'm just taking for granted that they didn't blanket every diesel part guy. Like, I'm hoping they didn't reach out to ATS and PPE and all of our competitors. I'm hoping that they saw my name or they had a buddy with a Banks part and they go, that's the one I want. I'm going to ask for them. Because I don't blanket. You do not want to do that because this is a very small industry and motocross is even smaller, right? You don't pitch all of them because God forbid they're at a bar and the guy from KTM and the dude at Honda are hanging out before Supercross and he goes, oh man, you'll never guess this pitch I got. It was this guy in Iowa. And the other guy goes, oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That same
Today?
guy pitched me.
I got that.
You're
today.
blackballed. Hey, good luck.
Yeah.
You ain't getting anything out of any company ever.
Yeah.
So you have to be selective about who you're going to pitch, right?
Yeah, and not only do these guys and gals all know each other and like talk every now and then, they end up switching companies throughout the years and they go and work at other places. Like it's just
for sure.
It's constant.
For sure.
And so they don't forget. They're like, oh, this guy, he's back, the Iowa guy.
Oh, and so it's in the same way. My friend Catherine was at iBox Springs. They make lowering springs and coilovers and the whole thing. And then she went to she went from there to she went to MagnaFlow. Everyone was MagnaFlow, right? She went to MagnaFlow, and then she just recently went to Pilot, and Pilot owns RBP, and RBP makes a bunch of like beautification products.
Yeah, RBP, like they own SEMA. At least that's what it looks like. I mean, you can't walk 3 feet without tripping over an RBP product.
Yeah, and they have there's some methodology to that. They followed the American Force model. You know, with American Force is a very polarizing brand. You know, I've even seen shirts where you know, the guys are like, they diss on American Force, like, ask me about your forces, bro. Or I mean, I can't remember the exact saying on it, but people think it's funny because American Force came out of the South or out of Florida, and they're huge. You know, to them, a 20-inch rim is micro. You know, these guys don't do anything smaller than a 24. They're doing 30s, all that stuff. But American Force was one of the early companies at SEMA to just go balls out. They gave their tons of product away. So no matter where you went at SEMA, and again, this is the largest show square footage-wise, it's massive. Everywhere you walked, you saw American Force. So what they were doing two things, same thing that RBP is doing now. They're doing two things. If you're a dealer, you own a performance shop anywhere in the country, and you're there to buy products because that's what this convention is for. You go, and everywhere you see, you're there to be impressed. Like the reason you fly from your shop in upstate New York or Hawaii or wherever you're coming for, Japan, to this convention, you want to be impressed by whatever the new hot product is, because you're going to go back to your customers and go, man, I just came back from SEMA and this new wheel and tire package is killing it. Like, it's fresh. We got to put this on your Tahoe. We got to put this on your Toyota Tundra, whatever, right? Well, when you're American Force, you're RBP, you want to do two things. You want to impress every single guy, no matter what hall they go into, North, South, Upper South Hall, Central Hall, wherever they happen to be, they see your stuff. The only way to do that is to give tons of it out and have signage everywhere. The other thing you're trying to do is set up your business to look larger than it really is, so investors will try to buy it, your entire company.
Yep.
That is what.
Speaking of that, I actually purchased RBP yesterday. Just closed the deal, so. Contact me with all your sponsorship requests going forward.
That's what happens. Perception is reality, right? Yeah. Perception is reality. If you buy, it's so funny. This is a side note. I for many years I owned a clothing store. I technically do still to this day, but I am not involved in it anymore. When I started at Banks, I wanted to give Banks everything, and so my partner in the store runs it day to day, him and his wife, and they're happy as a clam running it, and good for them. But I bring up the clothing store thing because we were one store. We were a 1,270 square feet. Okay. Not huge. Mm-hmm. And we sold. It was in Long Beach, California. It's called Long Beach Clothing Company, and we only do Long Beach stuff. So Snoop and Sublime, all the bands, that came out of Long Beach, like they wore our stuff, before Bradley died and all that stuff. But Snoop Dogg to this day still wears the gear.
Oh,
but
cool.
We were one small store in one little corner of Long Beach. But we did is we pooled our money and we would buy 40-foot billboards all around the city at Christmas time. Well, a 40-foot billboard is $14,000 a month.
Woo, buddy. Okay? How much?
FYI, that's inner city.
Wow,
so
I'm
that
stressed.
Is not,
I'm stressed.
That is not on the 405. That's not on the 710. That's not on 605 freeway. All the major freeways, we couldn't afford those. Ours were inner city. Now I would buy 2 40-footers, and I'd buy about 6 to 8 22-footers. And the 22-footers were sitting even more inner city, like on smaller streets. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't buy bus backs or any of those things or bus stations. I didn't buy this, just billboards. And a buddy of mine worked at the billboard company, so I got like 20% off. I got a decent deal, but it was still a massive amount of money. But people would come into the clothing store all throughout the holidays and go, "Hey, where's your other store?" And I go, What other store? I go, "Well, I saw your billboard. You guys have other stores, right?" We're like, "No, we have one store." And they could not wrap their head around the fact that one store had 40-foot billboards. It was way too big. Like the appearance, the perception was that we had a multi-store chain, right? And we wanted that perception. We wanted them to believe that we were freaking huge, right? So when we were driving around our van, we had one Duramax. We had one. It was a 2006 Chevy Express van with a Duramax. I love that van. It was just badass, and I'm jealous that my buddy Sean, who runs the store, gets to drive. But anyway, on the back of the van, we wrote number 12, and as if we had 12 vans,
Yeah.
And so we don't. What? I mean, what? We're a 1,200 square foot store. We're lucky to have one van, let alone 12. But just these little silly things, billboards, van, perception was reality, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but
I don't know how we got here either, but it's good.
I don't have a clue. I was talking about the perception is reality and some other thing, but we should be talking about sponsorships.
I mean, I think we are, because part of what I'm hearing here is there's certain elements that the people behind the businesses are thinking about, and stuff like this you can help with. Oh, I know how we got here, because we were talking about RBP and how they got their stuff everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It makes them bigger,
exactly.
Right? And they're handing out products to people, or they're spreading their stuff everywhere, so you think that they're way bigger. Yeah. I mean, look,
RBP, and this is not a knock on RBP. They have some really good stuff, but RBP is all Chinese stuff. Okay,
yeah.
None of it's made. There might be 1 or 2 items that are domestic, but most of RBP's merchandise, from their retractable steps to their wheels, everything is Chinese made or overseas. Okay, so they've got higher margins than American Force, which are built. They're actually milled in Florida. Nothing comes from overseas that I'm aware of. It's all milled on CNC machines in Florida, and I think that's actually. It doesn't matter. Anyway, that my point is that they've got a higher margin, and so they've got a bigger marketing budget, and they want to be perceived as this massive entity, which is for popularity's sake and to increase their value to potential buyers, right? But as we get back to sponsorship and asking whether it's a company because you need new riding apparel, or you want to ask for money, or whatever it is, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the person who's receiving your pitch, because we all, assuming the audience, you guys listening, all have jobs, right? When someone walks into your gig, wherever you are, and they ask for something, whatever it is they ask for, however they ask for that, you're going to have a reaction, all right? When your boss asks for something, the tone of his voice causes either the hair on the back of your neck to stand up or you to get a sick stomach or whatever. Like, there's a cause and effect to everything. And when someone asks for a sponsorship, when you ask for a sponsorship, there's a human on the receiving end 100% of the time. Why is that? Why is there a human on the other side 100% of the time? It's because you're asking for money.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you ask for at that company, Cowie, KTM, Honda, Husky, whoever it is, you're asking for money. Even if it's a pair of leathers, it's a helmet, that cost them something.
Mm-hmm.
No, it didn't cost them whatever the retail price is, but they have money into that, and they don't just have the $70 to make that helmet. They have R&D that's amortized into that helmet as well. That helmet just didn't 3D print itself, right? That helmet was designed, first it was conceptualized by an artist, then it was 3D printed probably in today's age, and then there was a guy that made a model of it, maybe out of clay. Forgive me, I don't know how helmets are made.
But I don't know either. I was like, oh, this is interesting, And
I'm a moron because not too long ago I watched a documentary on Arai, which I'm a big Arai fan.
Oh yeah.
And these things are so there's all this money that was baked into this, right? And not only is there's money, there's pride. Okay, normally the marketing guy who you're approaching at a company has a lot of pride in the business. Why does he have a lot of pride in the business? Because his job is to promote the company. Every day, this marketing guy has to go out and explain to customers why his product is better than the next guy's. Well, after a year of doing this, this guy believes his own words. It may have started out as manure in the beginning, but after a year or more of explaining this product, I mean, hopefully he believes what he's saying. But regardless, the outcome is, the reality is he believes what he's saying, okay? Mm-hmm. And he's invested in this brand. So you've got monetary investment in this product, and you have psychological investment in this product. So when you ask this guy for free money or free product, you're asking him to give cash and a piece of himself. And I can't say guy, but of course, many of these, I don't want to sound like an asshole. Many of these people are women. So I say guy, forgive me, but I mean men and women, obviously. Yeah. So I just got telling you that Catherine is at RBP is a great friend of mine. So clearly the industry is, there's tons of women in it. But so you're asking this person to give all this, right? So now that you know that, put your best foot forward. And make it as clear and concise as you can, and make it as, if you can, it's a picture. It's something that they can, because we're all driven by, we're human, and we need visual aids. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We all love beautiful men and women. We all love attractive cars and trucks. We all love beautiful, Caterpillar welds, right? We love stuff. Our eyes love stuff. So give that marketing person something to look at, right? And if you don't have much, maybe it's just a headshot of you. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just you on a dirt bike, but it's something. They're not having to fantasize about or to make up in their head what this guy or gal looks like, right? Here's you, flying over a triple or whatever, right? And then they go, okay, I see Joe. He's a real rider. He's riding this bike, and then here's the pitch, okay? And the pitch needs to be clear and concise. The pitch cannot be on Instagram. The pitch cannot be a DM on Instagram. It cannot be a PM on Facebook. Mm-hmm. The pitch must be in email form. As much as we are creatures now on social media, you are asking a guy to give you money. You're asking a girl to give you money. A cold air intake for your 2017 Ram 2500 is $429 retail and may have cost half that to build. Okay? Mm-hmm. So let's say you're asking that company to hand you $250. All right? Mm-hmm. Do it in a professional way. because the only caveat to that is that some kid on Instagram, he's got 250,000 followers on Instagram, right? And he's never been taught anything about real life. He's never had a job where he's had to wear nice clothes, and he's never had to walk into an office, and he has no idea how to pitch anyone on anything. But for whatever reason, he's had inexplicable success on Instagram, right? And he's just reposting everyone's fancy photos and getting all the credit. He's got an audience. In that case, as a marketing guy, I have to put my tail between my legs and say, or I'm sorry, I'm not tail. I should have to swallow my pride and say, I'm gonna listen to this kid because he's got a massive blowtorch of an audience, right? He's got a big megaphone, and I'm gonna deal with it. That is the only time that me as a marketer has to say, okay, this guy he may be a perfectly nice guy, he may be an a-hole, I don't know, but I know that he's got a massive audience, and if I want that massive audience, I got to deal with him on his level, and he DMs me. Well, okay, but that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and what I usually recommend for people to do, if they want to use the DMs, use it to start a conversation, not a pitch.
Absolutely.
Hey, I love your product or whatever. I think it's pretty interesting. Would you mind if I got your email? Or, hey, maybe we could talk sometime. I'd like to know more about what you're doing in your business. I don't know. I feel like it's okay to start a conversation or build a relationship at that point or get to a contact somehow. But I don't like the pitches being made via a DM. It rubs me the wrong way. And there's been enough people that have been on this show that have told me that. Or a lot of people, like, I'll record a show with somebody, from like on a business standpoint, and then when they're done, they're like, you know what? And like they give me some more, like they give me more information, and people for the most part do not like that. And I'm not going to say that it doesn't, like, sometimes it might work. If it does work for you, if you've had success with it, I don't think you should continue the trend. I think you should try something different. You may have lucked out, or like you were saying, you got somebody that, like, there's so many, they got 250,000 followers.
Let's put it this way. Yeah, Josh, let's put it this way. I have $1,000, right? And I'm I'm willing to give that $1,000 away, right? And I'm in a bank, all right? Are you gonna walk into that bank? You have the option to dress any way you can.
Yeah.
You can dress in board shorts. You can wear a banana hammock for all I care. You can dress in whatever you want. You can walk into that bank and you can ask me for the $1,000. Now, I've already put out the word. I want to give this $1,000 to somebody. Okay, it has to be a good pitch. Am I more likely to hand that $1,000 to a dude in a pair of cargo shorts, or a guy who walks in a suit? And I realize that the suit, it could be a dime store suit, but what am I, 90 dime store? God, I can't believe I just said that. I hang around, yeah. But like, a suit just tells me that you at least put in the thought and some effort into the presentation.
Yeah. Not
just walk in with your flip flops and go, yo, bro, you're giving away a cool grand. That's for me. What do I need to do, bro?
Yeah.
Like, no, don't say, bro. Don't say, can I have the money? Walk in and say, hey, my name is Jeff, and I understand that you're handing out $1,000 for someone who's qualified and will do something nice with it, something smart with it. Can I tell you just a few words about myself? And dude, now I'm feeling good about you. And I'm more inclined to listen to your pitch, and you're more inclined to get the money. So that's the same thing as a freaking DM. Like, the dude in the cargo shorts is a DM to me. And with a DM, right, because you can't DM, at least that I'm aware of, you can't DM on a computer. You've got to have a mobile phone, right? You got to have a phone.
Yeah.
And so you're typing the freaking thing with your thumbs.
Yeah.
And so you don't type long things with your thumbs. Nobody types diatribes with their thumbs. So what does that mean to me? I'm going to receive a very short message on Instagram, and it's going to say, hey, bro, do you guys sponsor? And then it's going to force me to stop whatever I'm doing and to write a freaking reply.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do sponsor people, but blah, blah. And now you're making me work to give you money.
Mm-hmm.
You're making me take more time out of my day, douchebag. Stop that. Like, your job as someone who's trying to get a sponsorship I shouldn't have to lift. The only pen that I should have to lift is the one that signs the check to give it to you. Yeah. Nothing else. Do not make me lift a finger. Don't make me ask for stuff. And so that was when I went back and I was building, whether it was my Honda or my first truck or my dually or the BMW, the stuff that I built, I said, I'm going to put together something that will leave no question unanswered. I'm not going to bore the guy. I'm not going to give him too much because no one's going to read 5 pages.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants to look through 100 photos. Just enough to show them I'm professional. Here's my track record. Here's what I've done. Here's what I hope to do. Here's your return on investment. I am going to answer that right in that letter. I'm asking you for $500 in free products. I'm going to return that $500 to your company 3x, 3 times. If I'm going to give you $1,500 in return. That is what I'm going to give you. And how am I going to make that $1,500 reality? If you had to put a banner up at these 10 races, it would cost you $200 per race. So I'm going to go to these races and I'm going to put my banner with your logo on it at these 10 races. That right there, these 10 races times $100, there's $1,000. So that's the first $1,000. Then I'm going to break it all down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell that guy exactly where he's getting his ROI. And that's the thing. It's like, what is the return on investment? So when you're asking for free stuff, like if I can sell, if I'm going to give you something for $500 that I could sell for $1,500, it's like, then I could just sell it because I already have a sales channel. I could just sell it to a diesel shop and sell it for $1,500 and make the profit. Why would I give something to you for $500 when I don't even know if I'm ever going to make that money back, let alone the $1,000 profit that I need?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing you just said that was kind of interesting. I mean, this is episode, I think it's going to be 209 or 210 when I release it. I talk about a lot of stuff. I talk about a lot of stuff on here, and sometimes I forget what I talk about. But I don't think we've spent much time talking about like offsetting costs that someone might have from a marketing as much. I mean, I've talked about like, you know, you're competing against other costs. So let's say, you know, a company could boost their Facebook post, or they could give you, let's say if it's $100 that they're going to boost this post for, or they could give you $100 in product. Both of them are going to have some type of return. One of them is probably more measurable than the other, the Facebook boost. But like you've got that option, but so that you're competing against that. But one thing that you could do that you kind of mentioned from the pitch standpoint is now you are presenting that to them. Hey, you could spend $100 on this Facebook post, or give me this 100, and I'm actually going to then generate 5 times the visibility by doing this, and this. So your dollar is going much further. You're going to invest it in marketing anyways. You know, you've now invested it and it's going way further. Now, I might not be able to give you a traceability to say, hey, I generated 15 sales off of this or something. But you might be able to say, very clearly how many more eyeballs got on that thing. So it's like an offset cost scenario.
Yeah, but so there's, if we want to dig into it even further, like when you're in marketing, there's branding plays.
Yep.
And then there are marketing plays where you need to show a return on your investment.
Yep.
So And there are many different scenarios, and I can't speak to every different company and what are their objectives. And I would also recommend asking that question.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
What are your objectives? And to be honest with you, I was asked that question the other day about a new product that we're about to launch, and I didn't have the answer. Mm-hmm. As a marketing guy, I didn't have the answer. And I had to stop and think, crap, what are my objectives? Mm-hmm. Do I just want to hit the ground running and pay for a campaign that will sell the product from day one? Or do I want to invest in a larger, broader, top funnel branding campaign where I'm trying to teach the world why they could potentially need this product that I'm making? But I would ask the question, because many marketers do know what they want.
Yeah.
Many of them are very analytics driven, and they'll tell you what they want. I'm not that guy, but there are plenty of them. But ask that question. What are you looking to achieve? And so I don't sponsor any Instagram guys. Mm-hmm. You need to have a minimum of 250,000 followers on Instagram before I'll talk.
Right.
Because Instagram doesn't sell anything. Now, Instagram can sell stuff with massive Kim Kardashian audiences.
Right.
Millions and millions and millions of fans, right? She sells the crap out of cosmetics. I get it. Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan, but I get it. Right? You can be, what is it, Jordan Star? What's this? You're on. I'm sure there's some girls listening now.
I don't know.
Star. Yeah, his last name was Star. Sells tons and tons of stuff on Instagram and YouTube. But I don't deal with Instagram because it's too fleeting. The post was there, now it's gone. Mm-hmm. I'm a big proponent of YouTube and Facebook because it's there much longer. It's sustained. It is engaged with much more deeply. So I would invest in someone who's got a YouTube presence every day over somebody that just has an Instagram presence. So I personally, and I don't think many people, Instagram is impressive if you've got 100,000+ followers.
Yeah.
And and it's very important frequency. Okay, so if you're a motocross, if you ride dirt bikes and you're hitting every race and you've got a really rabid fan base already, then and you're willing to post my products frequently, now I'm interested.
Right,
and,
right.
If through frequency, one post will never move the needle. Never, ever, ever. Unless you have millions of followers. I mean, literally tens of millions of followers. It will never move the needle. If you post something over and over and over and over and over, one post a day or twice a day for 3 weeks straight, you might move the needle. I might talk to you. But a post, not interested. One story, not interested. It's just not going to do anything for me. So it's not even worth me taking the time to fill out my product request to send you a free cold air intake for your truck. Mm-hmm. It's not even worth that time. If you talk to me and you've got a YouTube channel where maybe you teach people how to, revalve shocks, right? I'm interested. Now you're an expert in your field.
Right.
Now you may not have a ton of subscribers. But if you're an expert in your field and I've watched your videos and you're legit, you're authoritative, I'm interested now. So I'm looking at all these things. We started talking about the fact that there's a human on the other end of this call, mm-hmm. right? Or the end of the other of your pitch. The human in my position, or like again, wherever this guy is at Olin's, right? You're trying to get free shocks. What are they looking for? And did I impress them? So, what's a pair of Olin's go for? You know what I mean? Like, it ain't cheap. So they're looking at, to find out what their investment is. Or again, if you got a massive audience, then they're just looking for branding. But
I would say one of the important kind of terms I think I want people to take away from this is kind of the brand play versus the marketing play. If you ask somebody an objective and they tell you one or the other, right, it is a little bit different scenario. I've had both on this show before where someone has told me, sponsors for the show, someone has told me, look, I need X number of sales within X amount of time, and if I don't have that, then, we break our relationship, and that's fine. I've also had people say, I'm not here to sell anything. Like, I'm here to build a brand. So, I want to see, the right people engaging with my stuff. And that's what I'm looking for.
And Joshua, a brand can only be built in two ways: time or money.
Yeah.
That's it. Time or money. And so if you have both, you can do it for sure. But time. Banks that I work for here, we're in our 61st year, 61 years.
Wild.
Right? KTM, Honda, Cowie, decades and decades and decades, right? I mean, Honda, 100 plus years, right? That doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
So branding, to get your word out, to brand something, is very expensive and time consuming. And some companies have the wherewithal. Typically, smaller companies don't have time or don't have money, right? And so they need to see sales. And I think that, I've dealt with, there's a guy named Greg Albarala, and he is one of our ambassadors, so to speak, and he is a Ram expert. He owns every generation of the Ram diesel pickup truck since the first diesel. And when he wrenches on his Rams, and he is an authority, and he races them, and he loves them, and he's passionate, and it rings true to the audience. They love him. I mean, he sells merch. People can't get enough of it because they love Greg A. And when I give him, and I don't do discount codes very often, we typically do not discount our merchandise, but every once in a while, if we debut something new and he has a truck that my part will fit on, I'll give him like a 10% discount code, and he'll go on there and he'll install it, and he'll give a very honest installation and review. And I have sold in one day 18 $450 cold air intakes based off his recommendation.
Right.
In one day, right? And because he is an authority in that space. Now there was no branding there. There was just sales. Like ROI, he was badass. And that's who you want to be. Unless you have a huge audience, you don't have the tools to brand a company. You don't have the tools to brand KTM. You just don't. Unless you have a huge audience, or you're growing and you're the most badass rider on the planet, and you're winning every single race, well, then KTM probably already knows about you.
Right.
You're not pitching them at that point. If you're winning every race, KTM is already aware of you.
Yeah. Yeah, they might be pitching you.
That's exactly right. But if you're not that guy or gal, then you're pitching them. And what's the play? You know what I mean? You need a new trailer. You need a race trailer. So you want to reach out to ATC. You want to reach out to Featherlight, or God knows whoever makes freaking trailers, right? And you want them to do it. So how are you gonna give them back $26,000 in a beautiful aluminum trailer? Like, what are you gonna give them? How are you gonna give them $100,000, or let's call it $75 if it's a 3X? How are you going to give them a return on their investment? That's for you to dream up, you know?
Right. Oh, that's good stuff, man. Well,
Bore you?
No, this is good stuff. I mean, this is like one of the things that I do. And I talk about this stuff. I've done 209 episodes. I'm not bored yet. But all good things must come to an end, and I think that's about where we're at. I like to close things out, though, with kind of a little summary question. I'd like you to narrow things down. If there's just one thing that our listeners need to take away from the show, if they forgot everything else that we just talked about, what's that one thing they need to remember?
Pitch how you would want to be pitched. I mean, if we're talking about sponsorships, that's it.
That's it. Done deal.
Yeah.
See, everybody? Hey, if you want to go back there and listen to the whole episode again, you don't need to. You just got to listen to that part again. Just remember that. Write it down. No, I completely agree. I thought that was a good download, and I think a good perspective of ROI, how it's viewed, the different examples of it. Even going back to RBP when we talked about kind of their that's a whole different strategy that they're kind of going after. And you don't know that until you ask the questions. And then when you ask the questions, then you know exactly what to pitch to help them. Or you find out, never mind, I can't help you. Right? Like it's very, I've said that to companies before. I'm like, look, with my show, I'm like, I would love to help. And I would love to take your money, but I'm not going to do what you need. Like, it's just not, I would love to, I'm just not capable, or, I'm not set up for that. So you would be better suited spending your money elsewhere. Like, that's part of it too, to find the right fit. Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, I had a blast, Mr. Senior Lightning.
I love it. I appreciate it. And listen, I'm telling you, you're doing the Lord's work by getting this information out there, because if I'm getting pitched twice a day, and I'm just I make diesel parts. Let's be honest. We have a great company, but I can't imagine what Kawasaki's getting, right? I can't imagine what Shoei's getting. I can't imagine what any of these moto companies are getting, or whatever. They've got to be besieged, right? Besieged by these pitches, and in what you're doing, how you're educating your audience, and hopefully someone is listening to this podcast, to your podcast, to the series, and then helping their buddies who are, and stopping them. Yo, no, don't do it. I just listened to this podcast. Don't do it on Instagram. That's sure death. Don't do that. Bro, hold on. I'll get my laptop and we'll type up something more professional. It'll just take 2 hours. I mean, I'm hoping that your word will get out to more people. Because this isn't something that you're taught in high school,
No,
and unless you're in business class, in college, this is not common knowledge.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, when I first started doing this, I had no clue. I just knew I was sick of people reaching out to me, asking me the same question. I was like, come on, guys, come on. Give me a break here. And I was like, wait a minute, I could probably talk about this. Okay.
Have you ever been, Josh, approached about being a consultant? Because there's like a vacuum right now for people who know what you know, who could help put pitches together. I mean, there are people that help, you can pay someone $500 and help you write a resume.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you help doing that? Do this type of thing. I mean, there are guys, a buddy of mine, Chris Payne, he goes by Truck Guru. His job is putting pitches together for guys who want to build trucks to go to the SEMA show. Yeah. And he's a middleman. So you call Chris Payne, or you reach out to him, and you say, I want to buy the brand new, Blazer, Bronco, Silverado, Ford 67, whatever you're going to buy. And I want some parts discounted, and I want to show it at SEMA. Mm-hmm. Can you help me? And he says, yeah, for $10,000, I will help you get all your parts discounted, and I'll find you a spot at SEMA at one of the manufacturer's booths.
Right.
And that's his job.
Yeah. No, I have not. Well, I will say a lot of people ask me questions, which I encourage them to do in the show, and I did start doing a column. I've only released one so far, but for UTV Sports Magazine about sponsorship. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, no, I haven't consulted officially. I will tell you though, through my past professional life, I did get a consulting certificate. It is framed very nicely in some drawer somewhere in my house.
Oh, wait. A consulting certificate? I didn't know there was such.
Yeah, it was like, this is like in 2014 maybe, so not that long ago. Yeah, I went to this course at my employer at the time paid for me to go there. I was the HR manager, and, they felt that this skill would apply nicely to what I was doing, because a lot of people would come to me for advice. And so, yeah, it was a consulting class. It was like a 1 day or 2 day, or I don't remember how many days it was, a couple day class. It was a lot of teaching you how to influence and read a situation and share your feedback in a constructive way, and yeah, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I need to take that class.
Yeah, it was ATD was the company that put it on. I have no idea how big they are or where all they're at. I'm in Michigan, the center for basically all things in the world. No, I'm just kidding.
Sure.
But they have certificates all over the place. It was kind of a cool thing. I would encourage people, honestly, if you're listening right now, maybe not that specific one, but if you took some class or read a book on influencing without authority, it's a pretty interesting way. You learn how to. It's kind of like sales. You learn how to sell your idea. Dale Carnegie has books on it, and that's part of what the Dale Carnegie course is all about too. But learn that trait, and then you should be unstoppable.
Oh, wow. I learned something.
Yeah, hey, that was the goal. It's always the goal. Cool beans.
All right, Josh.
Yeah, well, you have a fantastic day. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been a good time. But at this point, I'm going to leave you with this. Have fun and ride safe.
Beautiful.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by 4-Wheel Parts. I want you to make sure that you are subscribed to this show, whether it's on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss upcoming guests and upcoming episodes. And then follow us on social media. We're on all of the platforms. You can find out the most content, though, on our Facebook page. That's where we do our live videos. To get some insider access to upcoming guests, you can also check out the Sponsored Rider Club on Facebook. It is a support network where you can ask questions about best practices and get feedback from our audience. A special thanks goes out to our sponsors, 4-Wheel Parts, AMSOIL, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, TopThePodium.com, and Crash Addict Industries. And I also want to shout out some of our other partners, MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and High Octane Coffee. I look forward to serving you again next week. Until then, have fun and ride safe.